I look out and the theme, fired up, and you see nothing but men and women who are indeed fired up. And I think about a quote from a general named Foch. And the quote was, "The most powerful weapon on earth is the human spirit on fire." And I believe in that. The most powerful weapon on earth, my friends, is the human spirit on fire. So we are going to light it up today. We're going to talk about how you ignite your soul, ignite your spirit in order to impact others. CNN, you may have heard this. They ran a poll on New Year's Eve. Some of you were probably out doing parties. I was home holding children, and I got to see this poll live. The poll question was simply, how would you rate your 2011? And then they made it pretty simple for us. You ready? They gave us two options: good or bad. Good, it was an awesome year, or bad, it was lousy. How would you have rated yours? Good, some folks said lousy. We're all over the place. The poll numbers came back, and the response may surprise some of you. 67% of us had lousy years. 2/3. And I realized the economy for many of us wasn't where we wanted it to be. Healthcare is challenged. Some of us have broken relationships and struggle there. But for 2/3 of us to say that we had a lousy year, I think speaks volumes much more about our mindset than the realities we face. It's really important, my friends, to remember always that we live in the freest, wealthiest country in the history of the world. My objective in the next 65, 70 minutes is to ignite the truth that 100% of us are able to say, yes, we had an awesome year, that this is a mindset, it is a choice, and we make it today. So my friends, we're going to talk about the power of one. The power of one in your lives to do and be and serve and impact others through your leadership. The power of one. And I'll give you 3 angles into this today, kind of 3 hooks, if you will. The first one, this may surprise some of you. The power of love. Okay, when you think about power, maybe the first word that jumps might not be love, but I'd suggest that this is indeed first. So the power of love, that's where it starts. There's a quote that I want to share with you. Ready? It's a guy named Og Mandino who wrote a book called The World's Greatest Salesperson. 1967, I think it was released. And in this book, he's describing how he builds relationships. And this is important for all of us as moms and dads, as leaders, as consultants, as business owners. The quote is this: "How do I greet every person I meet? In silence and to myself, I say, I love you. I love you. Though spoken to myself, these words unwrinkle my brow, they shine through my eyes, they bring a smile to my face, and they echo in my voice. I love you." On the count of 3, I want you to say that back. 1, 2, 3. I love you. I love you. It unwrinkles your brow. It shines through your eyes. It brings a smile to your face. It echoes in your voice. It changes lives beginning with your own. I love you. So we're going to start today with love. I wonder if any of you have ever seen anything done that was wrong or stupid, but you did it anyway. Liars. I saw you last night dancing. Okay? You ever made a fool of yourself? You ever done anything that you just knew was wrong, but you were tempted into it and you did it anyway? Others were getting away with it. When I was a little guy, I was 9 years old. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I saw some kids in my neighborhood playing with fire and gasoline. And what these little guys would do is they would pour a little bit of gasoline on a sidewalk. They would strike a match. They'd step back about 2 feet for safety. Okay? Very smart boys. And then they would throw the match on top of the liquid, and it would whoop, dance to life. And when you are 9 years old, and you are a boy, this is first class living. And you're thinking to yourself, my gosh, if these boys, I mean, gosh, they're like 11, you see a little peach fuzz on their face, if they can do that and get away with it, what's the next line? I can too. You never said that, huh? If she can do that or he can do that and get away with it, I can too. So that weekend, my dad was at work. My mom's out with a couple of my sisters. I had the house to myself. I walked into the garage. I lit a piece of cardboard on fire. Walked over to this can of gasoline. It's one of those old-fashioned red metal containers. Remember those? 5 gallons, like jerry cans. This thing was full. That's 42 pounds. I couldn't pick it up, so what I did, my friends, is I set the flame on the concrete floor. I bear hugged it with both hands. And then I slowly started tipping it like this. And my plan, if you can imagine, was to pour just a little bit on top to watch it spark to life. I'd seen this done. As I'm waiting for the liquid to come out, my friends, what do y'all think comes out first? Fumes, vapor, right? The flammable part. This is really important. It's what you can't see in life that burns you. It's not the news reports. That's why we don't even watch the news in our house anymore. It's not what they're reporting that gets you. It's those things they're not reporting in relationships, in government. It's those things that end up creating these explosions. And what got me that day were these fumes. The fumes came back into that can of gasoline, created this massive explosion, split the can in two, spewed 5 gallons over my entire body. It picked me up, tastefully simple. And then it blasted me 15 feet against the far side of the garage. When we were little, we all learned what to do when we're in that situation. What do y'all do when you're on fire? Ooh, beautiful. Remember like being in 2nd grade? You're at your desk sitting there with your hands folded just right. In the Midwest, we had a bear called Smokey. Smokey the bear. Anybody have Smokey the bear? Yeah? Remember Smokey? This guy used to walk into our classroom. He'd stumble around in front of us. He'd smell like a mix between campfire smoke and alcohol. And this bear would point and yell at us, "Kids, stop and drop and roll." And we were so scared that we would just keep our hands folded and say, "Yes, sir, that's exactly what we'll do." But when you're on fire, what do you actually do? You panic, you run, you get out of there. Here's our challenge that we're going to face during this weekend in Columbus. We're going to train sometimes up here. We'll take notes, we'll nod our heads. It's going to feel real good. But you're going to go through the exits, you're going to hop on those planes back home. Monday morning's going to hit, and you're going to start living down here. And there is a much larger than 18-inch gap between your head and your heart. My hope right now, my friends, is we start connecting that dot into one, unifying them, undivided. That day, I did what came natural, though. I was trained in my head, not my heart, so I ran. I ran scared. I don't know what else to do. I'm on fire, covered in gasoline and burning, and everything around me is on fire. And so I ran. I ran through the flames, opened up that garage door into the kitchen, came through that kitchen screaming for help, and nobody's there. So I just kept running. I ran through the kitchen, through the family room. I turned into the front of the house. I eventually stood on top of this rug, just screaming for help, praying for anybody to come into my life and save me. Anybody. You ever been there? Anybody. And I see my brother Jim coming toward me. This boy is 17. I'm 9. Anybody have an older brother or sister growing up? Okay, cool. So 3 people out of 2,500. Awesome. A lot of single children out there. Okay, we'll have to change the messaging a little bit. For the three of us who had siblings, remember the way you were treated by them? Remember that? Like garbage. And so that day, on top of this rug, burning and hoping and praying and begging for a hero to step in, the last person I am hoping for is him. You know people like that? Some of you? I think the real question, though, is sometimes, are we people like that? I am. And yet what that day proved to me, and what I hope that day now proves to you, my friends, this is a truth of life, is that people can change. When they're fighting for a cause greater than self. Change is almost impossible. Every one of you is a business owner. Many of you are parents. All of you are sons and daughters. Change, though, is almost impossible if it's about you. If, however, it's about others, watch out. If it's about your team, if it's about your mission, if it's about what we can do through your business, watch out, because then change happens. It happens every day, but it can't be about you. That day, this boy stepped into change because it wasn't about him. What it allowed him to do then was to pick up this little rug, to run over to my side. My friends, the flames were leaping 3 feet off of my body in all directions. And this boy, 17, started swinging into those flames, and the first time he swung down, what do you think happened to him? Yell it out. He caught fire. You ever touch anything hot? What's the natural reaction? Woo! You pull back. And then if I know you well, you do this. I don't know why you do this, but you do this. You put your finger in your mouth. And then if it really hurts, you start bouncing around on your right leg for some reason. Maybe a few choice words come out. That's what we do when we touch something hot. That's what he did too. He pulled back. That's natural. What he did next is not natural unless it's not about you. What he did is he re-engaged, stepped back into the fight. He swung down a second time, a third time, fourth time, and for 2.5 minutes beat down those flames, burning himself in the process, because it's not about him. It's about what he can do through his life for others. There's power, my friends, in that truth. What it allowed him to do was to pick me up eventually, carry me outside, throw me on the ground, save my life. My brother Jim became the lifesaver of the year for the state of Missouri in 1987, because it's not about him. I'd suggest to you humbly that the folks who are most successful in this room are most successful not because they focus on how do I grow my business. They focus on how do I grow my team. Because it's not about me. It's about others. That's how we find success. 1 minute, my friends, I was as perfectly happy and healthy. When you see the picture up there, you're probably thinking, extremely good looking for 9. I mean, the boy had a high ceiling. It took Mama about 6 minutes of trimming that hair to get it just right, those bangs. And that white thing you see between my chin and my chest, that's not a turtleneck. It's a dickie. Okay? My brothers and sisters and I, we used to think we were superheroes. We'd run around the house in our dickies and tidy whities. I don't know what kind of superhero that is, but that's what we were. It's, for those of you who are like from the South and you don't know what dickies are, they're like napkins you cut a hole in and you wear them. What I'm telling you, what I'm hoping you're hearing is my life was awesome. I took this for granted, but my mom and dad loved each other. They were married, they still are married. My dad was a business owner too. He was successful, but you start taking that for granted. We were all healthy. I know you take that for granted. And then that day, boom, it all changes. And then the real question is, then what? The next photo that's going to be on the screen will be hard to look at, I promise you. So some of you may